Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be taking a look at how Tim Hortons managed to ruin its brand. This is posted by a guy named Business by Jacob on YouTube. I watched about 2 minutes into it and I thought it was pretty interesting, and I gotta say, being Canadian, that title is hard to ignore because if you've been to Tim Hortons recently, I'm sure you probably know what he's talking about. You know what I mean? I certainly do, and I frankly, I'm quite interested into how it got to that point. You know what I'm saying? I have a few assumptions I'm gonna say, but let's just see what he has to say. All right. So without any further ado, let's get into it. Make sure you check this guy out. I'm gonna leave a link in the comments or in the description, whatever works. To his channel and to this video, so you can go click there now. Make sure you leave it a like because he put some work into this for sure, for sure. So let's get right into it.
Have you noticed something off during your recent visits at Tim Hortons? Maybe it's the long waits at the drive-thru, the odd taste of the food, the decline in cleanliness, or that overall sense that the magic just isn't there anymore. It feels like the Tim Hortons we once loved is fading, and
Yeah.
it begs the question, what went wrong?
It's definitely not like
Why
it
has an
was.
experience
That's
that
for
was
sure.
once so comforting and familiar now becomes so frustrating? I'm sure I am not the only one who remembers when Tim Hortons was more than just a stop for coffee.
Yeah.
It was a warm, welcoming part of our daily routine. So, what happened? Whether you've been a loyal fan
Pretty
for
much.
years or are new to
Yeah,
the
see,
brand,
that's like the
you've likely
classic
noticed
Tim
the
Hortons
shift.
right there.
Is
That's
it
the
the
good
result
shit.
of management decisions, increased competition, or has the brand simply lost touch with what made it special? In this video, we'll dive into the key factors behind Tim Hortons' decline.
Man, look at these ads.
Exploring how
These are
corporate
awesome.
decisions and cost-cutting have impacted the brand's identity, the shift in customer expectations that Tim Hortons has struggled to meet, the increasing competition from other coffee chains, and the noticeable decline in product quality and service. Join me as we break down how this Canadian brand slowly but gradually lost its way. Tim Hortons' story starts in 1964, when Tim Horton, a hockey player known for his grit on the ice, decided to take a shot at something completely different, the food business.
Yeah, so I'm sure maybe a lot of you guys don't know. I don't know, but yeah, he was an actual guy, Tim Horton. And yeah, he was with the Maple Leafs back before like being a hockey player was like really, really big money, you know? Um, Obviously, I'm sure they still made a bit, but it's just interesting. No, he also grew up, I know right now, just off the top of my head, I know he grew up around in Ontario. Was it Toronto, Burlington? I'm pretty sure he grew up around there too. So not only did he like play for the city, but he also was a local from that area. I think I could be wrong. I'm sure he's gonna tell me here.
He opened up his very first donut shop in Hamilton, Ontario. Tim had a simple dream: to create a cozy place where people could enjoy freshly brewed coffee and warm donuts. Even with the demands of his hockey career, he was all in on this new venture, seeing the potential for it to grow into something much bigger.
I suppose the only
Oh, that's cool. They got actual footage of him.
retiring or giving up hockey would be that things are quite hectic these
Hold on. Let me just see if I can turn on captions for you guys. There you go.
Trying to combine business with hockey, and if the business that I am involved in continues as it is, I may have to consider retirement before I would like to.
That's the Tim Horton.
He's got a very Canadian accent. That's very, very noticeable. That's cool to see.
It's very nice to be able to let me get a word in about it. If I may take the opportunity, I would like to. Well, heck, I'm going anyway. I'd like to say thank you to all you nice people in the Hamilton and Burlington districts, and in Galt and Brantford and Kitchener-Waterloo. For
Guelph and Brantford, Kitchener, Waterloo.
I'd like to thank you.
Not Kitchener.
A few years later, in 1967, Tim realized he needed some extra help to really take things to the next level. That's when he teamed up with Ron Joyce, a sharp businessman with a keen eye for business opportunities. This partnership was a game changer for Tim Hortons. With their combined efforts, the brand started to take off, quickly expanding across Canada. Their shared
all these-
vision and
all these classic like advertisements and whatnot. That's like the Tim Hortons like I grew up on. You know what I mean?
relentless work.
Like basically like you know, like that. This Tim Hortons cup, I didn't ever see that, but it was like the old style of it. If you look at like a Tim Hortons cup now, you can tell it's like it doesn't look anything like it originally did at all. Even the branding, the entire like
Turned a single donut shop.
it's all gone through
into
like a
growing
rebranding
franchise.
recently.
In 1974, the Tim Hortons story took a heartbreaking turn. Tim Horton tragically lost his life in a car accident at just 44 years old. His death
I did not know that. I didn't know he died at 44 in a car accident. That's kind of crazy to know. So that was like pretty early on after he made it then, eh? So I guess somebody obviously must have taken over. Like I guess like his business partner, I'm assuming.
death was a
Let's
shock
see here.
to both the company and the entire nation. Tim wasn't just a sports hero. He was the face of a growing business that had already started to weave itself into the fabric of Canadian culture. But despite this devastating loss, the company had to find a way to move forward, with the future of Tim Hortons hanging in the balance. After Tim's passing, Ron Joyce faced a critical decision. Understanding how important it was to keep control and continue the legacy they'd built together, he made the choice to buy out all of Tim's shares from his widow, Lori Horton. This move made
Okay,
Royce
yeah,
the
that
sole
makes
owner
sense.
of Tim Hortons, giving him the ability to guide the company through such a difficult time. While some people questioned his decision, Royce was determined to stay true to Tim's vision and push the brand even further. Royce's decision to take full ownership marked a major turning point for Tim Hortons. Under his leadership, the company continued to expand across Canada. Thanks to his entrepreneurial mindset and commitment to the brand's core values, Tim Hortons didn't just survive after the loss of its co-founder, it thrived. Tim Hortons' legacy lived on, not
And to his point, he's right. It does seem to have thrived during that time period because like hell, one opened up everywhere. You can't drive somewhere in Canada without there being a Tim Hortons. You know what I mean? I guess it's like the like Dunkin' Donuts or Starbucks of America. And we have Starbucks here too. We don't have Dunkin' Donuts. And Starbucks is becoming pretty popular, but it's nowhere near the size of Tim Hortons, especially because of the price of it. And Tim Hortons now, that's the problem. Tim Hortons now is expensive. Like you can't it's not like just a cheap shop anymore, but everything in Canada is expensive now. So I guess it's not really like their fault per se, you know what I mean? Is what
just
it
in the
is.
name on the storefronts, but in the continued growth and success of the franchise he started a decade earlier. In 1976, Tim Hortons introduced something that would go on to become a true fan favorite: the Timbit.
Yes.
These little bite-sized
Yes.
donut holes were made from the leftover dough of regular donuts, and the idea was as clever as it was delicious. Not only did it cut down on waste, but it also
Yeah, leave a like in the comments if you like Timbits, man. Timbits are fucking amazing. Those are God's gift to man. I will be honest. I buy them a lot more than I should, to be
gave
honest.
customers a new, super convenient snack option that quickly took off. Timbits added a fun twist to the Tim Hortons menu, perfect for folks looking for a quick treat or something easy to share. Their small size and low price made them an instant hit for families,
Yeah.
office gatherings, and casual get-togethers. Over time, Timbits became more than just a snack. They became a symbol of what Tim Hortons is all about. It wasn't just about coffee and donuts anymore. Tim Hortons had officially become the go-to spot for
Wait a second. Well, we're backing that up. $1.99 no tax for 20 Timbits. What the hell? 1 second. I'm looking up the cost of 20 Timbits right now. That's what I'm doing. So it is $5.99 plus tax for 20 Timbits now. Yeah, fucking wow.
for a little something extra. As Tim Hortons continued to grow and innovate, 1985 introduced one of its most iconic promotions, the Roll Up the Rim to Win contest. This annual event quickly became an integral part of the Tim Hortons experience, forging an even stronger connection with its customers. The concept was simple, but super engaging. After finishing your coffee, you'd roll up the rim of the cup to reveal whether you'd won a prize. From free coffee and donuts to cars and cash, the excitement of discovering what was under the rim became a ritual for many.
And I will say to that, I'm recently, like, they got rid of that a couple years back, and it was a stupid move. I don't know why they did. And now it's all on the Tim's app, right? So they completely got rid of like that aspect of going in, buying a coffee, rolling up the rim, winning a prize, and then obviously, you don't. At least I personally, in my experience when I did it, I did not seem to win nearly as many prizes on the app as I did, you know, rolling up the rim. And then obviously that tag was good too, right? Like you could bring that tag in, and depending on the coffee shop you were at, nobody cared. If the promotion ended, you still had the tag. I went in there a few times. I just gave them the tag and here's your coffee. You know what I mean? Like they don't care. They were chill with it. You know what I mean? But now you have an app. You can't do that. You know.
More than just a marketing strategy, Roll Up the Rim fostered a deeper relationship.
Those are the cups I know. That's like core memory cup right there. Just gonna say it now. Like that right there. Between the ages of like 0 to 10, that's the cups I saw and grew up with.
The brand and its customers. Each year, the contest generated excitement, with people eagerly anticipating its return.
That's exactly how they looked.
It evolved into a cultural phenomenon in Canada, where friends and co-workers would share their wins or joke about the inevitable "please play again" message. The contest had a tremendous impact on the Tim Hortons brand. It didn't just drive foot traffic and increase sales. It also reinforced the community spirit that Tim Hortons had built over the years. With Roll Up the Rim, Canadians had yet another reason to choose Tim Hortons over other coffee shops, further embedding the brand into daily life. As Tim Hortons entered its peak years, it became obvious that this wasn't just another coffee shop chain. It was turning into a true Canadian icon. Throughout the late 70s, 80s, and 90s, Tim Hortons was growing at a rapid speed.
Yeah.
It felt like every small
As I said,
town
everywhere.
and big city across Canada
Everywhere.
had its own
Yeah.
Tim Hortons, and people quickly made it a part of their daily routine.
Tim Horton donuts have baked.
I love these ads so much. These are like when advertisements were actually good.
Strawberry Tim Tarts, a flaky tart shell brimming with rich, smooth custard nestled with fresh glazed strawberries. Come and discover Tim Horton's newest pastry treat everyone will love, Strawberry Tim Tarts. It's just one of the tastes.
This is obviously way before my time, but it's still cool to see all these advertisements, you
Tim
know?
Horton donuts, fresh from your friend along the way.
The company's dominance in the Canadian market was undeniable. By the early 90s and early 2000s, Tim Hortons had completely outpaced its competitors, including
Yeah.
McDonald's, becoming the go-to spot not just for coffee and donuts, but for full meals too. Its influence was so strong that many Canadians couldn't even imagine their communities without a Tim Hortons nearby.
That's very true. And to add to that too, I lived in a rural community most of my life, so that was like the place, you know what I mean? Like you went to go meet people or to like see your friends or do anything, especially in high school, you know what I mean? Like that was where you went to do that, you know what I mean? And we did have a McDonald's and stuff too, but you know, it wasn't the same. Like that place, you know, it's a coffee shop, it's got a decent sized parking lot, rural community. It's just kind of where you like hung out, you know what I mean, I guess, in a way. So
I just want somewhere to go that's relaxing, have a good cup of coffee, you know, just see people that you normally see. There's nothing like coming to Tim Hortons, especially our regular ones, where they actually know and they ask us how we are and how we're doing, and we're pretty lucky. Like at this Tim Hortons, I come here on Tuesdays actually, they come up and they go, okay, regular, and we've got one girl, she'll go, 1 large triple cream, and she'll say 2 with milk.
The brand had grown far beyond its humble beginnings, becoming an essential part of everyday life in Canada, a place where memories were made and a sense of community was nurtured. Whether it was through their iconic Roll Up the Rim to Win contest or the simple joy of a few Timbits, Tim Hortons found a way to connect with people like few other brands could. As Tim Hortons solidified its role as a cornerstone of Canadian culture, the brand sought out strategic partnerships to fuel its growth. One of the most significant moves came in 1995 when Wendy's International Inc. acquired Tim Hortons in a $425 million US deal.
Jesus, I didn't know that. I had no idea. When was this? This let's rewatch that.
Wendy's International Inc.
1995. I had no idea. Wow.
acquired Tim Hortons in a $425 million USD deal. This acquisition was intended to be mutually beneficial, allowing both brands to share resources and optimize their business models. Wendy's, which saw most of its customers during lunch and dinner hours, had unused seating during breakfast, while Tim Hortons had steady morning traffic, but slower lunch and dinner periods. The idea was that by sharing locations, they could maximize their profits and make better use of their spaces throughout the day. This led to the creation of co-branded locations, where Wendy's and Tim Hortons operated side by side under the same roof. These shared spaces, which can still be found today, were meant to increase efficiency.
Yeah, I was gonna say, those are still everywhere. So that makes a lot of sense. I didn't know that they made an actual acquisition deal like that, but that does make a lot of sense.
And draw customers at all times of day by offering both breakfast and lunch dinner options. However, the partnership didn't unfold as smoothly as planned. Former Tim Hortons marketing executive Ron Buist highlighted the resistance from franchisees who were determined to keep the two brands separate. Franchisees even refused to allow Wendy's to sell Tim Hortons coffee in their shared locations. Additionally, Ron Joyce, co-founder of Tim Hortons, openly criticized the merger, calling it a mistake. It became clear that merging two brands with such different identities and customer bases was far more challenging than expected. By 2006, the tide had shifted. While Wendy's was struggling, like many other fast food burger chains, Tim Hortons was thriving and generating substantial profits. Recognizing the brand's success, Wendy's opted to spin off Tim Hortons, taking advantage of its peak value to make a profit. This decision ended their direct partnership and allowed Tim Hortons to regain its independence and continue growing on its own. Although the merger was initially intended to benefit both parties, it ultimately underscored how difficult it is to merge two brands with distinct identities. In the end, the separation allowed both Wendy's and Tim Hortons to refocus on their strengths and better serve their respective customers.
There's quite a few of those empty buildings too.
The Wendy's merger marked a pivotal moment in Tim Hortons' history, signaling the beginning of significant changes. Although Tim Hortons eventually regained its independence after parting ways with Wendy's, the experience exposed the company to the complexities of operating within a larger, global business structure. This brief period set the stage for future transformations, as Tim Hortons began to navigate pressures beyond its Canadian roots. Fast forward to 2014, and Tim Hortons faced another turning point with its acquisition by 3G Capital, a Brazilian private equity firm. This was part of
Tim Hortons is owned by a Brazilian private equity firm? Wait, what? Since when?
An $18 billion merger with Burger King, forming one of the world's largest fast food conglomerates under Restaurant Brands International. But this was more than just a big business deal. It marked a critical moment for Tim Hortons, a brand that had always been a symbol of Canadian culture.
Isn't anymore?
Under the control of a global company known for its aggressive cost-cutting measures and relentless pursuit of profit.
Yeah, that's the problem.
This shift introduced Tim Hortons to new global pressures, which ultimately moved it further away from its original Canadian identity and values. 3G Capital made a significant move when it acquired Burger King in 2010. Known for prioritizing efficiency and maximizing profitability, 3G Capital built its reputation through a strict, zero-based budgeting strategy, an approach where every expense must be justified from the ground up each year. While this method helped drive profits, it often came with job cuts and concerns about declining quality. When 3G Capital later spearheaded the merger of Burger King with Tim Hortons in 2014, they formed Restaurant Brands International, RBI, the parent company that now controls both brands. With RBI in place, 3G Capital assured loyal customers that Tim Hortons wouldn't lose its identity.
It completely did. They rebranded, as I said, and it's not the same at all. It really isn't.
Their expertise would change Tim Hortons for the better, allowing the brand to grow globally while maintaining its roots in Canada. The message was clear. Tim Hortons would not only survive under RBI's control, but thrive on the international stage. They presented a vision of rapid global expansion, positioning Tim Hortons in cities worldwide. However, many Canadians were skeptical. The idea of expansion sounded promising on paper, but there was a growing fear that 3G Capital's relentless focus on efficiency and profit could erode what made Tim Hortons special. Instead of the familiar community-centered coffee shop, people worried that the brand would become another pawn in a corporate machine, driven more by financial gains than by the values of quality and customer service that originally defined it. The future of Tim Hortons felt uncertain, and for many, this transformation seemed like the beginning of the end for the iconic Canadian brand. But this promise of global expansion wasn't without concern. 3G Capital's history with previous companies raised some serious red flags.
Yeah.
Take their 2013 acquisition.
And that's the thing too. I don't know if you saw in that previous picture there, like it under the sign, it said like smoothies and stuff too. Like they started, like Tim Hortons was a coffee shop, right? You buy, breakfast items, you buy coffee, you buy donuts, you buy bagels, you buy breakfast sandwiches, that type of stuff, right? And now it's like they're introducing items that make genuinely no sense at all. Like the pizzas, for example, if you know what I'm talking about. They recently introduced a pizza at Tim Hortons, and it's literally like, it's like a cardboard pita bread pizza. It's like $9 and it's not worth the money at all. It's bad. Like it's genuinely bad. But what place does that have in like a coffee shop? You know what I mean? Things like that. Let's see what he has to say about it. Maybe he'll go on about that.
In partnership with Berkshire Hathaway, 3G Capital quickly put their well-known cost-cutting strategies into action. The effects were harsh. Just 2 months after the deal, 600 workers at Heinz's headquarters in Pittsburgh were laid off.
Wow.
And that was only the beginning. When Heinz merged with Kraft in 2015, the cuts became even more severe. Over 5,000 jobs, about 10% of the workforce, were eliminated. 7 plants were shut down, and the push for efficiency left many questioning whether product quality would suffer. For 3G Capital, making a profit came first, even if it meant laying off thousands of employees and allegedly reducing the quality of its products. With this
Yeah, layoffs are awful. It's really sad to see these companies in like the ultimate goal for profit, I guess, of the country that it's based in, right? Like if these private companies have the ultimate say whether who can work there, how much money they want to invest in their business per year, they get the say in that, right? But it just sucks to see. You hate to see people get laid off like that.
History in mind, concerns about Tim Hortons began to grow. The initial excitement of global expansion was quickly overshadowed by the reality of 3G Capital's track record. What started as a quiet worry was now a serious fear. Would the heart of Tim Hortons, the values that made it a true Canadian brand, be in jeopardy? The question wasn't just hypothetical anymore. It was turning into a real concern. Many wondered if 3G Capital's relentless focus on profit, which had already led to drastic changes at Heinz, could do the same to Tim Hortons. The brand that once symbolized community and quality was now facing a threat to its identity. This tension between the promise of global expansion and the risk to Tim Hortons' core values left loyal customers feeling uneasy. They feared that the brand they cherished might be heading toward a transformation that wouldn't preserve what made it special in the first place. The fear of Tim Hortons losing its identity became a reality in 2018, when the brand found itself at the center of a major controversy. After Ontario raised the minimum wage from $11.60 to $14 an hour, this should have been a win for workers. However, Restaurant Brands International, RBI, Tim Hortons' parent company, refused to let franchisees raise prices to cover the increased costs. Left with no choice, some store owners, including Jerry Lynn Horton-Joyce and Ron Joyce Jr., descendants of the founding family, resorted to cutting paid breaks and reducing employee benefit.
But the most important thing is that these people deserve a wage that they can live on. They deserve to be able to put food on the table for their kids, not have to work 2 and 3 and 4 jobs just to pay the rent or the mortgage. And so this is about making sure that people have a decent life in Ontario. Ontario is a place of great wealth, great prosperity, and it needs to be shared.
And on that, that's just not the case anymore, unfortunately. A lot of people, if you're working at Tim Hortons, you do need to take a second job or a third job to support yourself in Ontario as of right now. That problem has not gotten any better. That problem has strictly only gotten worse, and I think I speak for everybody when I say that. You know, minimum wage in Canada, it's not nearly enough to live on. But yeah, let's keep going.
That's why we're standing with these workers and with these activists. That's why I'm here to say to franchisees like these ones, back off and pay your workers a decent wage. They deserve it, and certainly you can afford it.
This decision sparked outrage across Canada. Employees were furious, and the Premier of Ontario, Kathleen Wynne, even condemned the move as a clear act of bullying. What made the backlash even worse was that it was directed at the founding family members, amplifying the damage to Tim Hortons' reputation. Many saw it as a clear sign of corporate greed, RBI's influence becoming more apparent, prioritizing profits over people. This incident was just one of several issues between 2017 and 2018 that severely tarnished the brand's image. Once a proud symbol of Canadian culture, Tim Hortons was starting to feel more like a corporate entity, disconnected from its community roots. The damage was visible in the numbers. By May 2018, the brand's decline in reputation was undeniable. In Forbes' ranking of Canada's most reputable companies, Tim Hortons dropped from 13th place in 2017 to 67th in 2018.
That's about right.
Additionally, in an annual Leger survey, it fell from 4th place to 50th in just 1 year.
Wow.
For a company
4th to 50th in 1 year is crazy. 13th to 67th is crazy, but 4th to 50th is insane. You are top 5 and you are no longer even in top 10. Let alone top 20, top 30. Like that's crazy.
That had consistently been in the top 10 for nearly 2 decades.
Like, yeah.
These dramatic drops were a wake-up call. Canadians were left questioning whether the Tim Hortons they once knew and loved was slipping away, replaced by a profit-driven corporate machine that no longer reflected the values they cherished. As controversies and negative news piled up, Tim Hortons' brand began to show clear signs of trouble. The cracks started appearing in 3 key areas that had always been the backbone of its success: the quality of its products, friendliness of its customer service, and most importantly, the emotional bond it had built with its loyal customers over the years. They indicated a significant shift in what had made Tim Hortons unique. From the taste of their coffee to the vibe in the stores, longtime customers started to feel the difference. As a result, the strong loyalty many Canadians felt towards Tim Hortons began to fade. This loss of trust was a serious risk to the brand's identity and its place in Canada. The most striking changes at Tim Hortons was the sharp decline in the quality of...
It's the pizza! That's literally what I was talking about. That right there. It actually genuinely looks kind of tasty on that picture. And you get it in reality, it looks completely different. I'm telling you now, don't buy it.
Coffee and food.
It's not worth the money.
Longtime customers quickly sensed that something was
like that.
off.
I'm just gonna say now that actually genuinely looks like I would eat that in that picture, but it does not. Like, I promise you buy it, it's not that good.
In a positive way. The coffee, once a daily must-have for
That's
many
rancid.
Canadians, began to lose its charm.
That right there is rancid.
The taste noticeably shifted, and as for consistency, that became a distant memory.
Oh, look at the hairs. Oh. Okay, yeah. I've never had anything like that to my knowledge. And if I did, honestly, I think I'd rather not know, to be real with you. So, but that's nasty. That's gross.
Some of Tim Hortons' most loyal customers started making the surprising switch to McDonald's, better tasting coffee and a far more reliable experience.
Which is crazy.
The shift was undeniable, and it spoke volumes about the brand's downward spiral.
Like that McDonald's is better than Tim's for coffee.
Items that were once freshly made in store were now simply frozen and reheated.
Yep.
Resulting in a noticeable drop in both taste and texture.
Yeah, and to that point, they don't have nothing is baked in house anymore. It's simply brought in frozen. They, as he says, reheat it and they serve it to you. It's nothing is actually like baked in house anymore. So the taste it noticeably went down for sure. Like when I was a kid, maybe it's just the nostalgia speaking, but even then it tasted noticeably better than what you get now. What you get now is It's good. It's passable. Like I'm still not going to decline a donut from there, you know? But it's definitely not as good as it was.
This change left many customers feeling let down and disconnected from the brand they had once cherished. But it wasn't just about the food itself. It was the growing sense that Tim Hortons was cutting corners, prioritizing cost savings over the quality that had once made them stand out. Customers began to realize that the brand was losing touch with what had originally made it special, and that shift was hard to ignore. And it wasn't just the coffee and food taking a nosedive. Reports began to surface about a decline in customer service too. Complaints of longer wait times, botched orders, and a drop in the friendly atmosphere that Tim Hortons had always been known for became increasingly common. These weren't just random mistakes, they were clear signs of deeper problems within the company. Tensions between corporate leadership and franchisees were escalating, with heated disputes over cost-cutting measures and the impact of the minimum wage hike leading to public confrontations. Franchise owners, frustrated and feeling abandoned, started openly criticizing the company's direction. This internal conflict was spilling over into the customer experience, making it obvious that Tim Hortons was struggling to maintain the quality and service that had once set it apart. The brand's trademark warmth and reliability were fading fast, leaving many loyal customers disappointed and disillusioned. Tim Hortons has long wrapped itself in the Canadian flag, positioning itself as a core symbol of the nation's culture. From commercials featuring hockey scenes to the iconic maple leaf in their logo, everything is designed to scream Canada's coffee.
Yeah, exactly.
But the reality is that ever
just not
since
the case
3G
anymore.
Capital took over and merged Tim Hortons with Burger King, the brand's claim to being truly Canadian has started to feel empty. Despite this, they continue to lean heavily into the Canadian identity in their marketing, using national symbols while drifting further from the values those symbols represent. It's a strategy that comes across as increasingly hypocritical, as they try to profit from national pride without genuinely living up to it. Even though Tim Hortons still claims to be all about Canada, their actions paint a different picture.
Yeah, it's not the
The
case.
shift to frozen food and the noticeable decline in quality don't align with the brand Canadians once loved. They may keep showcasing the Canadian flag in their ads, but when the coffee doesn't taste the same and the service falls short, it feels like a letdown. Consumers today see through the marketing spin. We want brands to be authentic, not just tell us what they think we want to hear. Tim Hortons may still cling to that Canadian image, but it no longer feels sincere. If they want to regain the trust of Canadians, they need to go beyond waving the flag. They need to actually reflect the values they claim to stand for in how they run the business. And then there's the roll up the rim to win fiasco. For years, this was a beloved tradition that Canadians eagerly awaited
got rid of
every
it.
winter. Rolling up the rim of your coffee cup with your fingers, revealing the message, and hoping for a prize was more than just a promotion. It was an experience uniquely tied to Tim Hortons.
Exactly.
It was fun and a small moment of excitement that customers connected with. But now they've gone and taken the whole thing digital. And
Like, exactly. It's on the app now. Like, it's so cringe. You know what I mean? It just does not feel the same at all. I don't want to have to walk into a coffee shop and flash my phone to get points, quote unquote, and maybe win a coffee on the side. And the other prizes are good, but like I know people that actually won big prizes with like actual roll up the rim, you know what I mean? I don't know a single person who's won anything big from the app since it's been out, and it's been years, you know? So it just definitely feels like you don't get nearly as much. They want you to go in like multiple times, like a day maybe even, to win something big is what it feels like.
let's be real, it just doesn't feel the same anymore. This shift to a digital-only version of Roll Up the Rim feels like yet another example of cost-cutting and, frankly, laziness.
Like, yeah, who wants to do that?
Instead of that small...
Oh, you have 5 roll up the
physically
rims.
rolling up
Literally, you have 5 roll up the rims. Let me just sit here and tap. Oh, did I win? Nope. It's not fun. Versus you go in, you buy a coffee. Oh, I didn't win, whatever, right? But at least, like, it's an experience, right? Versus tapping on your phone like any other app. Like, it's so generic, you know what I mean? I don't know.
You're now just tapping a screen.
Yeah,
It takes away the nostalgic aspect of the tradition.
exactly.
For many, it feels like Tim Hortons is cutting corners again, trying to save money at the expense of what made their brand unique. Going digital might reduce their costs, but it's also stripping away the charm that came with the original event. The story of Tim Hortons' brand decline under 3G Capital's ownership serves as a powerful lesson for brands everywhere. The story here goes beyond basic business strategy. It's about the heart and soul of a brand. When 3G Capital took control, they implemented aggressive cost-cutting measures in a bid to maximize profits. And yes, they did succeed in driving up financial gains, but the cost was far greater than they anticipated. In their quest for efficiency, they cut away at the very things that made Tim Hortons such an integral part of Canadian life. The result? A steady decline in product quality, a noticeable drop in customer satisfaction, and an erosion of the loyalty that had taken decades to build. These weren't just minor business missteps. They were betrayals of the deep trust Canadians had in the brand. 3G Capital's obsession with profits didn't just hurt the company's bottom line. It damaged the core values and community connection that made Tim Hortons successful in the first place.
Yep.
This story is a clear warning about the dangers of prioritizing financial gain above all else. When a brand loses sight of the quality and values that initially earned its success, it doesn't just risk losing customers. It risks losing its identity. The trust and loyalty that takes years to build can be quickly destroyed when the focus shifts from serving people to serving profits.
That's the end of the video there. I just want to leave it on this picture because I want to like add to that point he makes there. That's exactly right? Like, Tim Hortons was a small town, quote unquote, in the city still, but it was like a smaller kind of independent business where you were taken care of. You went in, you got served, and it just kind of was a community element, you know what I mean? Everybody kind of acknowledged that. You had old folks in there, you had people of all ages in there. You know, back in the day, you could obviously smoke in there too, so it was kind of weird, but like, you know, it was like a hangout spot, like everybody, and that's how it became so like close knit with Canada, right? But, and as he says, right, they staple the Canadian flag on all their products, but they're not like a Canadian brand anymore by any means, especially like, and I'm not trying to like say anything here, but like if you go to Tim Hortons nowadays, you know what I mean? It's usually not the same customer experience as you would expect from a Canadian coffee shop, let's say. You know what I mean? If you live here, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And I'm not trying to throw shade or nothing like that, but it is what it is. But it's definitely not the same. It doesn't feel the same. The quality is so much less than it should be. And it's embarrassing, frankly, because how are you going to have a coffee shop that's been in its roots in Canada for years, has always done everything authentic, and then this multi-billion-dollar conglomerate buys them, and suddenly, you know, they don't stand at all for what the company originally was. So it's no wonder why like they're going under. Like, I'm not gonna say like Tim Hortons is failing by any means, but like, I used to go there a lot more than I do now. Now it's like maybe once a month if I'm feeling bold, or maybe twice a month if I'm feeling like really, really bold. I'll go to Tim Hortons. I still know a lot of people that go there every day. They get something. But A, it's too expensive, and B, it's just like, I could just make coffee at home. It would honestly be just as good, which is like, you know, kind of the whole point of going to a coffee shop is to get good coffee. You know what I mean? If you can make it at home and it's just as good, why even bother spending $2.50 on a coffee? You know what I mean? Like, it just doesn't make sense. But yeah, no, I think this was a really, really good video. Business by Jacob, go check out his channel and go give this video a like. This this was a fantastic, pretty on the dot video in my mind. I think he did a really good job with it. I really like the use of all these advertisements to kind of get his story across, the use of music to get his point across, and his narration was also extremely like gripping. It was interesting. It was very attention grabbing, and I genuinely wanted to watch the whole thing through. You know what I mean? So yeah, if you guys enjoyed this reaction, please leave a like, leave a comment, and subscribe for more. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace, guys.